I'm going to do some demos, and then I want to see your thumbnails for today. Ali, why are you scowling at me like that? Stop scowling at me, Ali. Just stop it. There you go. Put a little smile on your face. Dance a little jig. First of all, thanks to our animation teams from 24 Hours last week. Woo! Brooke, Sierra, hopefully you've recovered well enough. I am going to guess that we are not allowed to look at them until probably next week, right?
I believe that's the rule.
Yeah,
Sierra probably knows
yeah,
better.
till Friday.
In fact, I looked at Heather's teams and I was like, looking at the note from Paul, and I was like, I wonder if I should be looking at it then. Well, I looked at all yours. Did you see Heather's?
Oh yeah.
You saw it. Right. Yeah, but by the time
24
I
hours
looked
ago,
at
got
it,
together and watched each other's.
by the time I looked at it, hers had been viewed 71 times.
I mean, they are public on YouTube, so it's not like they can be like, oh my gosh, how dare you have a view? Like, they require that they be public.
So what was the stipulation? Did they want you to make it private until they viewed it?
No, because they need it to be public for them to view it.
So what was the rule?
No, I guess don't promote it.
Don't
Can't
promote it.
People seem to have read this much closer than I did.
Can't they just unlist the video and just send them the link?
I was not involved in the creation of these rules. That's what I would do.
And as I understand it, it was coming out of San Jose State University, right? So those two moderators were from San Jose State.
No idea. Could
Well,
be.
I saw the little logo there when they were doing their intro.
That's cool.
So, and remember, they have a really great program. They're run by a whole bunch of people that Paul and I know. All right, so we're still waiting for a couple of people to show up. And I'm recording this, so I'm gonna drop it into the class because we have a lot of things to do today. The first thing that I want to put out there is that the Project 2, some people didn't post there, so I have a bunch of DNPs for did not present for Project 2. And so if you're in that category, go and look and try to post. And if it looks like the due date is already passed, then email me and I'll put an extension on there and make sure you get partial credit for Project 2. We're looking at Project 3 right now. I wanted to see thumbnails today. And so we will do critiques of those here in the second or third part of our class. And looking at my original schedule, which is kind of thrown off a little bit by the 24-hour animation challenge, because this Project 3 was supposed to be due next week. And so what I've done is an administrative decision and moved it from October 14th to October 21st. So this project will not be due until October 21st. Again, I'll post this in the class and make sure that everyone knows. There's a bunch of people that are absent at the moment. All right. I was hoping to remind everyone, hopefully Achu got like 20 thank you emails. Did you all email him? He emailed me back and he didn't say, oh my God, I got 20 emails, but as long as they didn't bounce back, he was happy that he could help. And I think he's a born teacher as well as all of us other educators. All right. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of things, and I'm going to do them at kind of a faster pace than I would normally do in a classroom. And most of that's because I'm recording it and I'll be able to put this back up online. I'm not going to go too fast, but the first thing that I wanted to do was just reiterate a couple of things that I went over last week. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And the thing that I wanted to start with was this thing that we kind of ended with last week. And so what we were talking about was story arcs. And just to reiterate, this sorry. So this coordinate is intensity. That's what this little I means. And this coordinate is time. And so this is 0 time, and this is 100 minutes or whatever. And this is very low intensity, and this is high intensity. And then so we map this out by talking about how a James Bond film sometimes has really high intensity action moments that start the film. A lot of times filmmakers will do this, just exactly what I'm doing, is they'll put in little variables about how big they think the intensity is. And then that gives them like a variability, a place where they can look at it and see where the action is rising, where the action is falling. If the action's rising, falling, rising, falling. I think it's incorrect of any filmmaker to want to have like a straight line, straight up over time like this, because you could just really tire out your audience. And when you're thinking about actions that are happening on screen, this could be like your colossal war moment when your armies are fighting with each other, and you want to make sure that your armies aren't fighting each other for a huge amount of time. You'll really just tire out your audience. They won't be able to figure out what's going on. But it's always a good idea to have something close to this red line where you have rising action, falling action, rising action, falling action in the first act. And so this is just your introduction. This is your enlightenment. This is your just establishing your characters. So and remember that the whole thing here, if we're talking about a 100-minute film, is that you could put the hero's journey right on top of this. You could put like introduction of the hero and then crossing the threshold. And I think that the more you do that in a storyboard class like this, where we're doing shorter projects, it can be kind of distracting. The 24-hour film challenge from last week, they were all supposed to do exactly 30 seconds. So that was 720 frames. So you take this from 100 minutes down to 720 frames, and all of a sudden you've got like, wait, what am I, action, falling, what are you supposed to do? So there's a couple of things that I wanted to add to this. Act 2 is really your character development. And that can happen really in the A part of Act 2. And then you have your crisis or your conflict right at the top of Act 2. And then your rising action can be, or your falling action here, can be kind of listed with a few things where the heroes have won the war, or they're still trying to find the elixir, or that the pressure's off, or anything like that. But remember, rising action, falling action, rising action, falling action, rising action, falling action. That's what these little things mean. And that's kind of what this meant to those little lines. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about here was when this plotting out of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 was basically Aristotle. And so when Aristotle did this and thinking just about story and story development in Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, he was just kind of thinking about it graphically, and that's a really good idea. And you can plot out all kinds of things here where you can break up Act 2 into Part A, Part B, even Part C, and have a 5-act play, where Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 1, 2A, 2B, 2C, 3. And then if you have a denouement, that's the end of the film. And then if you have Act 4, this is your epilogue. And so you can have 5, 6 acts. There's all kinds of variations in there. But when Stanislavski was talking about acting and method and story itself. He was talking about these being beats. And so he was trying to say beats, story beats. And each one of these was a beat. That's what kind of, each one of these lines was a beat. But in his broken Russian, it sounded like he was saying beads. And in fact, he was trying to say beads because each one of these little changes in direction was kind of like a bead. And he was trying to say bead, but we heard it, us American fools heard it as beats, which can kind of be confusing because in animation, a beat equals 8 frames. So just remember that if you're in animation, a beat equals 8 frames. And we use this little square with a line through it. I've drawn that twice here, 720 frames and 8 frames, because sometimes in the studio, they would say 8x for frames. Sometimes they would say 8FR, which is okay. All 3 of these are fine. But a lot of studios kind of avoided this 8x because often in the exposure sheet, there was a column for effects, and it would be FX1, FX2, and there would be all kinds of different ways of naming the drawings in that effects column. And so some studios avoided using this to indicate frames. All right, and then remember that we then on top of this talked about the emotional component of this arc, and that it's very, very difficult to try to have an emotional arc that parallels the enlightenment or the introduction if there's a rising action, if you don't know your character. So you want to try to get your emotional arc as close to the action arc as possible, and then you're off to a good start. I think that in this explanation here, that if you have your emotional arc being really flat, that's what this X means. This is like destined to be a really bad film. If you have no character development, no action, no rising action, no falling action, you know, this is boring. This is absolutely boring right here. And then we did a couple of things. And then we went and we said, what's this? This was another example. And I apologize that I drew right over my arc. I didn't really want to do that. But you know, this is intensity over here. This is time. And this is rising action, falling action, rising action, falling. And then you have a cliffhanger. And this is not a good idea. This one here, reiterating again, if you have rising action, falling action, that just keeps going and going and going. This is a never-ending story, and this one is not good either. And I wanted to revisit this just because there was an idea that I've always had when doing this, is that, you know, this is like the most boring story ever, right? You want to put in some sort of action. I mean, you don't want to start out with action and have your action go like this and then just fall off, because then your audience there's not going to be any reward. So always trying to have like a little denouement or a little epilogue is always a nice thing to kind of wrap up a story. And just kind of think about this graphically, about what your story could possibly look like. If you have rising action and you have a big climax here, then your act 2 is like this, and then you have another one here. I mean, you can kind of get yourself into story trouble if you're suggesting to your audience that you have 2 areas that have just tons of action in them. There's a lot of other things that are variable here. So remember that there's all kinds of graphic ways of talking about putting the story out there, both in terms of action, intensity, and emotional content. And this emotional content is always tricky, because you could, in the script, there's all kinds of ways that you can think the way to get your audience to like your character, or your character to have appeal. But this is also locked into style. It's locked into mood. It's locked into culture. There's all kinds of things here that drive this emotional content. I mean, you know, all you need to do is start talking about politics or something, and all of a sudden your emotional content is going to go up. And what I always like to say is that if the emotional content, the emotional curve and the action curve are really close together, then you as a filmmaker are thinking about it, and you're more thinking about the process, and you're more bound to be successful. If the emotional content is really far away from the intensity then something needs to be fixed. Something needs to be readjusted there. All right, let me check my notes. All right, so now the next thing I want to do here is just jump over and talk about a couple of things that I have queued up. And the first thing, let me make sure that this was actually the first thing. Hold on a second. Stop it. I have my pen. My pen is controlling my tablet. Okay. So the first thing, no, not a guitar. All right, so the first thing I just wanted to remind everyone that, remember that when I was talking about, and I'm going to annotate this right over my screen, is that when filmmakers are talking about an extreme long shot, you can see here that there's two different ways of talking about this. Sometimes it'll just be long shot in the script, but here we have XLS and ELS. And remember that when I was talking about a DEV or a dog's eye view, or an FEV, which is a flea's eye view, or a WEV, that was the same thing. So here you've got very long shot. Sometimes these two things are intertwined with each other. Or long shot, here's your long shot here. I'm sorry, this would be ELX. All right, and then medium shot, sometimes this medium long shot isn't even used. It's just indicated as one or the other. So I'll put a little question mark there. And this is very common. MS is medium shot. Medium close-up is very common. Close-up is always, CU is always close-up. But here we have a big close-up. And I've never seen this before. But you can see that there's a difference between the position of the camera in this shot and in this shot. So whoever's writing this is thinking big close-up. And then this is an ECU. So I'm saying ECU. I, in my experience, have never seen XCU. So I've never seen that. So keep in mind that there's just a couple of different ways of annotating your camera positions. All right, and then the next one is a reminder for everyone, and I really like this for a couple of different reasons. One is this thumbnail right here. You know, you're just setting up the shot really quickly. You've got a sense of where the perspective is, the camera's looking up, and you're drawing a bookcase. And then you're tying it down here, and you're kind of just following, you're putting a little tone in there. And they're talking about rhythm and spacing. And in this one, they're talking about a couple of different things at the same time. They're talking about the perspective for this car. They're talking about the perspective on this building on the left and the perspective on the building on the right. And they're all pointing to a focal point in the middle. Sorry, I meant to write FP. So it's a standard thing to want to drive the elements in the background to your focal point. When you're drawing thumbnails, you can certainly do that. And it's a good thing. In that Fluby Newbie website that I introduced you to a bunch of weeks ago, there's a whole section there in the later part of that website where they talk about composition, and they're talking about focal points and driving your eye to a certain point. All right, so let me clear that. All right, and then the next one here that I wanted to talk about. Now, this is kind of weird. I don't know why it did this, but let me just check ahead here, because I thought I had this one. I think I might have gone backwards. So I liked this just as a series of thumbnails because it was there was tone in there. The exterior part of the drawings has been cleared out. You can kind of see that whoever was drawing this has really kind of compiled the thumbnails next to each other, so it's easier to read. But when they were drawing this, they were not just filling in the boxes. And that is one thing that I've always tried to get you all to pay attention to. It's like, compose your shots, draw the drawing, draw the background, draw the horizon. You look at these drawings, like right in here, you can see the suggestion of the backgrounds and the perspective, even in the very rough thumbnails. And again, this is accessible through the storyboard board on Pinterest. And these are great. There's lots of action shots in here. The drawings are all very gestural. None of these drawings were done any longer than 5 minutes. So all
Hey,
of
Billy.
these, yeah.
So I don't see it on the Storyboard 8 Pinterest list. Yeah, I like all three of them, but I can't access
All right,
them.
I'll save it. So
Cool.
so that one's on there now. This one's supposedly on there. This one is, I guess this one came from my cat's board. And you really don't want to see my cat's board, because then you'll start having,
I
No.
have a question.
no,
Are
yes.
these technically like storyboards, but they're made from the thumbs?
Well, that's always your first step when you're doing a story, is to do thumbs. That's always your first step. And you heard Achu say that last week. You know, sometimes he doesn't, but if there's anything that's in the script that's new or different or weird or odd, then they've got to go in there and thumb it out. And you heard him say that most of the time he doesn't draw maps, but there are some times when he, and remember that I prompted you all, it's like, he's the only guy I know that doesn't draw maps. And then he dismissed that idea of me. He said, oh, there are some times when I need to draw maps, because if it's a new environment, they do need to kind of figure out where things are. All right, so, and then this one, and I'll save this one again right over it. So this one is talking about a couple of different things about composition. And you've heard me talk about the rule of thirds. And then this one is talking about using the golden mean as a proportion for setting up your composition and focal points. So again, I just saved this one, the storyboard 8. And you can see that in this one, there's a nice tight focal point in the middle, which kind of alludes to the idea that, and I'm just going to draw right over my screen right here, that this area right here, and this is not quite a 16:9 panel. So I don't know if this is actually, but what this does is it allows for this area here to be both the action safe area and the title safe area. So you would never want to draw in this area. All right, everyone understand that? All right, in this one, let's see if there's anything else I wanted to point out in this particular panel. I think that what I like in this is that there's just some really great dynamic poses and some really wonderful gestures. And I think that when I was prepping for today, I'm like, oh, look, the cat, the boy who drew cats. I'm like, you know, we didn't see this in the script, but there are some things that are in there that are just interesting. All right, moving right along. Pushing your poses. So what I'd like to do is, you know, they talk about this just very specifically about the idea of, and I like this when you're talking about using a line of action to draw any particular pose, because you push the pose by pushing the line of action. So just with this little first drawing of SpongeBob, you know, he's looking to his right, our left, and he's like, and the author says this works. I mean, he's looking to his right, but look at how much more dynamic this drawing is. It's much better. Here's got Patrick, he is looking up, but look at that line of action. So you cannot disagree with this. Look at Plankton. You know, he's mad, but look at him pushing that pose. And here he is running. Here's SpongeBob running to his left, our right. And so he's got, it's a run cycle. It will work. But look what happens when you push the pose. And how far could you push that pose? Here you've got Patrick, and look at that line of action. So often in animation programs, and that's why this thing comes up here for Flour Sack, is that that's what they're looking for. When animation programs, even animation studios are asking you to do an animation test, and they say, do a Flour Sack test. And it's a very common thing when you're applying for an animation job. They're like, what are the rules for the Flour Sack test? You're given a Flour Sack model and you have 30 seconds. The Flour Sack's got to walk in, he's got to look around, he's got to be startled about something. Then he's got to jump out of the way because a big anvil fell down and it caught just his little foot. And he's like, ah, and he's screaming. And the anvil crashes through the floor, and so too does the Flour Sack, and so there's your script. You can't do any of those Flour Sack drawings without drawing a line of action first. And then there are a couple of nice little pointers in here about adding and twisting motions and getting the character to jump off the ground plane, those kind of things. All right, so I believe the next thing that I have queued up for you is Straight Against Curves. No, I like this one just because it was the author was just talking about maintaining screen direction. So, and here you've got your blue guy, and he's about to kick the little leprechaun, and he does kick him. And in this shot right here, the camera is basically in the same place, but it moves just to the left, just a little bit, so that the guy can clear out of the way. But this is a true cut. This is an absolute true cut here, where you cut to nothing, and then all of a sudden you're leprechaun. So the camera basically did this. If you look at me and the monitor up there, the camera just did a 45-degree cut. And then you see him going way off into the distance. Pay attention to your perspective. And now the camera is over here. So when he lands, he's going to be landing right here. And so this view of him landing, the camera is way over here now. You can't do this without drawing a map. You can get yourself into so much trouble if you try to do this kind of screen direction, this kind of action, without drawing your camera first, or your maps first. All right, I think I have one more queued up for you. There was a big old fat old drawing that I had in the 214 lab, where at this point in the semester, I had everyone do a camera move over a great big drawing that I had. And it was something like this. And so instead of doing that production challenge, we're just going to talk about it, because this by itself, wherever we are, we're in Florence, we're in Paris, I don't know where we are, but this is a great shot. This is a nice perspective on these Baroque buildings back here. But as we come up in the foreground, we can see that there's a forced perspective. We can kind of see that the camera's also now more forced into the bird's eye view. And so this is a nice drawing just all by itself. And the camera move would just start out here. And this is just a really simple camera move where it's trucking from this position up and on a curve, on an arc, into this position. And in my production challenge, I wanted everyone to actually do a tilted camera closer, like even in here, and then an extreme close-up on the spire. And you build this as what's called a camera guide. And often us storyboard artists are asked to do camera guides. And it's kind of strange that I don't see one popping up here. Yeah, this one's kind of well, this one's more like a layout, where it's going from this position way back there, and there's a camera move on it. Let me see if I can cross-reference.
Can you also refresh those so they're on your storyboard side up front?
I got a little spinning button.
Mm-hmm.
My computer's thinking about Coraline, I guess. I don't know if you're going to get that one.
All right.
Let me refresh the whole tab. Yeah, there we go. All right. So what I'm going to do is, and this was kind of funny that there's a backstory to this, that out of all these years I've taught storyboarding and drawing, mostly storyboarding, that we always talk about layouts at this point, because for this project 3, I want boards from you. These thumbnails that you're doing today are important, but in 2 weeks from today, I want boards. And when you're doing boards, there's a couple of other things that you have to take into account. You're almost doing layouts. And you kind of heard me prompting Achu about that last week, where it's like, hey, you know, do you have to do layouts? And doing boards and layouts are different things, because sometimes the boards can be really rough. And then all of a sudden layouts are more like engineering drawings. So, and I've always used this example. I'm going to put in 2D animation drawing. I'm going to put in layout. And I know that the film is called Pups of Liberty. And hopefully it'll come right up. Yeah, it comes right up. And so this is a very, very typical layout, where here you've got the little girl pup, and she's talking to the woman, and then the camera moves. And you can see the camera move right over the background. It pulls out and it trucks to the right. And I'm not going to say anything more than truck, because this is one sheet of paper. It would be a dolly if it was in live action, but because it's one piece of paper, it's basically a truck. It's a move, but if it's on one piece of paper, then it's not technically a pan, it's just a truck. So a pan is if you have a very, very long piece of paper and it's way bigger than the animation paper. You could argue that you've got the flat peg, round peg, flat peg, round peg, and this is a very long drawing. You could argue that this is a pan and not just a truck. I don't use them interchangeably, but because I see this as one drawing, I'm going to call it a truck. All right, so the A level here, the little girl moves to position B, and she turns around to say thanks, and then she moves to position C, and she meets up with Paul Revere or whatever. And this is great, because when the little pup is talking to the woman, everyone listening, then Paul Revere does not need to be animated, but he needs to be in the layout, so that when the camera gets to him, that's when the animators know to animate him. And then when the camera moves away from the lady, or when the lady walks away, and we can see it on the camera guide that she's now off the screen, then we know to stop animating her. Even though there might be paper for us to animate her on, if she's out of the camera move, we don't need to animate her. And that's what layouts are for. That's the basic fundamental thing for a layout, is that once this woman pup starts moving to the left and the camera starts moving to the right, if she's off the screen, why am I going to pay animators to animate her if no one's ever going to see it? And I'm not going to animate Paul Revere until my camera sees him. So this is the whole purpose of a layout, is to cut down on production costs. The studio is going to recognize right away, you're not going to want to animate everything in this whole big, huge background and then do a camera move on it and realize that you've just spent 30% more on animation and time than you should have. All right. All right, let me check my notes here just for a second. All right, so there's a couple other points that I wanted to say, and that was that Achu talked about working on American Dad, and you know, it's nice that he has a job for the last 10 years, and even before that working for Fox and working in the industry, and now he's an assistant director, and he's happy that he doesn't have an hour-long one-way commute each way. But a lot of the stuff that they do is dialogue driven. And so they have a natural thing where their pace is talking, and then something action will happen. Talking, action will happen. So there's a natural rhythm of the way the scripts go that drives all those really low action, very minimal animated areas. And all of a sudden, you know, Dad will come crashing a car through the house or something, and it needs to be mapped out and laid out and animated. And actually done in storyboards. So even for you, even though we're doing a 1.5 minute or a 2 minute story, try to avoid this dialogue as much as possible. If you need a few things in there just to get the story point across, but don't be doing talking heads with me. Even Rick and Morty is all talking heads, you know, and then all of a sudden there's this long sequence of going through time warps and aliens blasting each other, and it's fabulous. The animation is incredible, but there are sections in there where Rick and Morty are just talking to each other. So keep that in mind. All right. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is talk about After Effects. This is After Effects. And what I've done is I went in and I started a new project. And when I got the new project, I got a blank screen right here. Actually, I think this was the first time that I've used this particular update. So there were a couple of other buttons I had to click in order to get to this screen. I had to say no to a couple of different things. Has anyone ever worked in After Effects before? A couple of you? No? A lot. So I'm going to just show you a couple of things. I'm not going to dwell on this very much, but you can do this in Harmony. You can do this in Storyboard Pro. You can do this in, obviously, After Effects. You could do it in Premiere, Director. You could do it in Flash or now Animate. You might even be able to do what I'm going to show you how to do in the animation timeline in Photoshop. But what I wanted to do is talk about cutting and cross dissolves. And so in order to do that, I went and I did File, Import, and I went and hit Command I for import, and I brought in a bunch of images that are in my project folder. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to look out here and I'm going to see how big is my timeline here. And I'm going to say, you know what, I can't even see my timeline. I'm going to bring my timeline down. And for some reason, it is being funky with me here. I'm going to just start this. So I'm going to call this a new composition. I'm just going to go fade, because this is a fade. It's going to be 1920 by 1080, square pixels only. When you're in the digital world, always, always, always stay square pixels. If you do anything with this pixel size here, like any of these other, you're going to screw up your ability to translate what you're doing into any other format. So always work in square format. We want to be at 24 FPS, full resolution. Time code starts at 00. So this is hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. And the duration here is hours, minutes, and 30 seconds. So I'm going to limit this to just 10 seconds. And the background color is black, and I'm going to say OK. All right, so now I got my timeline. So you see that I could bring in images into my project folder before I even had a project composition. So right now I've got this, it's at 10 seconds. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to bring this down to just, let's see here, that was 10 seconds, so this is 5 seconds. This is 2, this is 1 second and 12 frames. This is 1 second. This is perfect. So now I've got my timeline set, and I'm going to bring this with it. I'm going to bring the whole thing with it. So now I've just got 1 second of a film. And there are other ways of doing this, but just for this particular demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these drawings, and this is a thing that I wanted to remark just for all of you, that as your career goes along, as you start studying things more deeply in film and cinema and animation, pay attention to how you're naming things. You always want to name things very cleanly and with very short names. There's an example, is that I made a demo here of a bunch of JPEGs and they're in sequential order. There's no funniness about it. It says demo, and they're straight. Names are in order. So I'm going to take these, I'm going to highlight these, I'm going to drag them Like I could drag them anywhere. I could drag them to the stage. I can drag them to the timeline. I'm just going to drag them to the stage. And when you do that, you can see that they're stacked up. You can see that they're stacked up here. So now the other thing that I can see as well is that not only are they stacked up, but they were not behaving to the limit that I had put in here because it didn't take the limit correctly. So I'm going to take all of these, are all still selected, and I'm going to drag these to the left. And I'm going to do this to make sure that I'm not deselecting anything. And what this actually means visually is that this is how long things are being held for. So those images came in for the full 10 seconds. And right now I'm just limiting them down to, let's go all the way back down to 1 second. Just back down to 1 second. All right, so then what I'm going to do here is, I don't see my little slider. Oh, here it is. So now I'm going to take my little global and I'm going to bring this back down. And you can see that now I'm at my full 10 seconds. So this timeline is now 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4, 5, 5.5, 6. So now I can see the full 10 seconds. Here's my images that are stacked up in After Effects. I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to say transform and I'm going to say fit to comp. And as I do that, if I was drawing at 16 by 9 or something close to it, and now I set my aspect ratio at 1920 by 1080, that right click just took all these drawings and snapped them exactly to the aspect ratio of the film. It's just that easy. All right, so now I'm going to click off of these and deselect them. And this is my playhead. And you can see that after 1 second, everything disappears. So one way that people work in After Effects is they keep these things selected and then they control click, or I believe it's control. Nope, it's command on a Mac. Now that's the first one is deselected. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stagger these a little bit. So I'm just going to stair step them a little bit, just like this. And I'm not paying any attention to time. Normally, your beginning shots are longer. Your establishing shots can be very long. And I can fix that here in just a moment. But the purpose of this was showing you how to do cross dissolves and fades. All right. So there we go. So that is set up. Now if I hit my playhead, you can see that I've got a bunch of drawings lined up and we're starting to look at an animatic. If I go back to the beginning and I take my limit, take my limit all the way to the beginning and end. For some reason, After Effects is being a poo head. And I hit play and I got to move this out of the way because my playhead is in a strange place. I don't know where my play button is. The play button on After Effects is the space bar. So this is what my movie looks like right now. And this is what you don't want. You never ever want your animatic to have shots that are cut that have exactly the same time for every single panel. Because that'll just, your audience already knows, cut, 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 cut. Even the most lay audience will pick up on it. It's like, oh, that's not what you want to do. But what we're trying to do is talk about fading. And so what I'm going to do is a couple of things here. In my timeline, this is my title card. This is my establishing shot. So maybe I want my establishing shot to be longer. So I'm going to drag this one. I'm going to drag these out just a little bit like this. So this is fine. I want my establishing shot right here to be like this. But I also want it to, we're going to talk about fading into this shot right here. So in After Effects, the way to do it in After Effects is that I am going to open up a keyframe right here, and it's all graphic. It's all just visual. And I'm going to say, I want this to be 100% opacity. And so remember that there's a difference between the word opacity and opaque, because at 100% opacity, you can see it. But if it was 100% opaque, then it would be invisible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the timeline, the playhead, out to the end of this particular story panel. And now I'm going to take this 100, I'm going to put my mouse right over it and make it go to 0. So now what you'll see is that I have a fade. So it's fading into the next shot. So here's what it looks like at speed. All right. Does everyone pick up on that? Let me play it one more time. Right? That's a fade. So what we did was basically what we talked about a couple weeks ago is cross dissolving between one image and another. That's all you have to do in After Effects. Now let's talk about describing the passage of time. And in order to do this, on a storyboard panel, you would just write fade to black and fade up from black into the next panel. But in here, what we're going so you don't want this. You don't want just a cut to black, right? You don't want to cut to black. So what we're going to do is we're going to fade into black, and we're going to do kind of the same thing. So for this panel right here, and a lot of times what I'll do is, if I know that there's a fade or something, I will change the color of it here so that it's visual, so I know that I've done something different to that particular image. For this one, I'm going to make this one the next one, which is aqua, and I'm going to do a fade to black. So right about here, I'm just going to key the opacity at 100%, and then at the end of this panel, I'm going to key the opacity to 0. And then you can see that what I've got is cross dissolve, fade to black, and then it cuts up to the next shot. So this one I want to be aqua as well, because I'm going to transform this up. So this one, it's just a straight cut. But what I want to do is I want this one, I'm going to put my cursor about here, and I'm going to key the opacity at 100%. I'm going to move it back to the beginning of the panel, and then I'm going to key this one to 0. And now you can see that what we've got is I'm going to go from the top of the title card, Audrey. There's my establishing shot, fade, cross up and down. So that was really fast, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this keyframe, I'm going to move it back. I'm going to take this keyframe, I'm going to move it back. And so what I've done is I've increased the duration of the fade. See that? So I'll play it once again. So what that could mean, that's just kind of like a 12-second fade, a 12-frame fade. And a 12-frame fade kind of just means a cut, but it's easier on the eyes. 12 frames is only a half a second. So a half a frame, half a second fade just kind of reads as a cut. But let's talk about another, let's just do it a little differently for this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this one in place. So we're just going to, if I wanted to make sure that this is cutting properly, then I'm going to just line up this one so that it's right underneath it. And there's a new thing in After Effects where it actually snaps to the playhead, which is really nice. So these two are aligned. That's just a straight cut, right? This is something that you do not want in any story is cut to black, and then you don't want that blink like that. So let me show you what that looks like. You don't want that blink. You know, that's just one frame or even less than a frame, but you do not want that kind of a blink. Your audience will just freak out on you. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a longer one. And in order to do this, I'm going to stretch this guy out a little bit longer. I'm going to stretch this one out a little bit longer. And what we're going to do is we're going to cross dissolve in a longer period of time. And remember that this is just a demo. All right, so so this one is selected. Our playhead is right here. Somewhere about right here in the timeline, I'm going to key the opacity at 0 or 100%. So that's my keyframe. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to key it to 0. And then I'm going to go to the next one. And this one's going to be a little different. So I'm going to make this one, the next color down, I'm going to make it peach. And I'm going to make this one peach. That just tells me that I've done something different with those two story panels. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this one, I'm going to do the same thing I did before, except that I'm going to take this one from 0, and then I'm going to go out here about halfway through that panel and bring it back up to 100%. Now, it didn't take the keyframe, so I have to redo this. So I don't know why it didn't take it. So I'm going to click this little opacity button, which should add a keyframe. And I'm going to take it from 99% down to 0. Yeah, that was a little glitch. I don't know why that did that. So the reason why I caught it because I didn't see that keyframe. All right, so now I'm going to take it from 0 back up to 100. And just with, so right in here, there's lots of gray. And so for 1 and a full 2 seconds almost, we're going to see black. So let's take a look at how those two, this is just a blink, so that's a straight cut. Well, let's just look at the passage of time that is apparent between Becca looking to her left and then looking at her grade book. So let's look at what we've got. Cut, crop, fade to black. You see how that one felt longer? And then the other ones are still there. So the longer that you cut to black, the longer the apparent time elapsed. And so you have to get a feel for this. It depends on where you are in the story arc, like we just talked about. You would never want to put a fade between 2 shots, from one shot fade to black and then fade up from black into another shot if your 2 characters are fighting. If you've got popcorn cutting going on between 2 characters and they're just smacking the hell out of each other, you're just going to cut. You're going to cut. You're going to tilt your angle. You're going to use Dutch angles. But when your story is moving slowly and you want to go, she's feeling nonchalant, so you might want to show the passage of time with a cut like that. All right. I thought there was one more thing I wanted to show you. Let me look at my notes. All right, thanks to Jesse for posting that little link right there. Some nice layouts. And an example of that layout that I just showed you right in the middle of it. All right, I know that I might be back a little early, but too bad. All right, so we are at the point where I want to see your thumbnails for project 3. And I'm recording this so that if you need to go back and listen to the notes, you can. Let's try to get through this. Let's go alphabetical, but from the bottom to the top. That sound okay?
No.
Well, last time we went from the top to the bottom, so now we're going from the bottom to the top. So Philip, he knew he was up, so now he's connecting to his audio. Geez, this year's been really rough. There's not going to be any more new Van Halen albums. There's not going to be any new Rush albums. What are we supposed to do? Listen to Boston over and over and over again. The Beatles broke up in 1968 or whatever. Oh my God, 72. And I gotta tell you, every time my son introduces me to a new band, they're either just broken up or they've stopped recording or there's a pandemic. Like, oh my God. Has anyone ever heard of the band First Aid Kit? Two singers, two sisters from Sweden. Their music is astonishing. And they had a family problem and they stopped recording last year and stopped touring. And it's like, hey. And the same thing with a band called the Civil Wars. John Paul White and I can't remember her name. And they didn't see eye to eye and they stopped recording as well. All right, I don't know what's going on with Philip. We're gonna have to come back to Philip. So Yalen?
Sorry, I'm still uploading it.
Oh no, I just want you to share your screen.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, there's a place to upload it, but I want you to share your screen.
I'm actually working on my iPad and Zoom was on my computer. Can we pass for a while?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Evelyn? Evelyn.
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, let me open this stuff. Okay. Oh, God. That page. Okay. We're showing the for the gag.
I believe you've got to share your screen with us in order for us to see what you're talking about. I mean, I could be wrong. All right, here we go.
Okay, sorry. Let me put this.
Nah. All right, so instead of describing everything, let me just do it. So friendship bound, a guy playing with the ball. Hold on a second. All right, that looks good. Connection of shots, a zoom in. Cut, okay. Okay. Snap, okay. He comes in. So now we have to find out what's going on in panel 21. His sister wants him to come play. Okay, so now go to the next one. Okay, so be careful between panel 31 and 32 because it doesn't look like the ball is, it looks like the ball's floating. Did you want to throw the ball to him?
Yeah, it's floating.
Because
It's
right
like
now it looks like
a
it's floating. Because
you
right
talking
now
about-
in panel 27, she bounces it, or it looks like she's going to throw it down, or that she throws it right at him in panel 29, and then all of a sudden in panel 30, magic stops and it floats. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So then he takes it and makes a basket with it. And what's happening in panel 42? Is that like some bum on a bench?
Yeah, so he's kind of nearby. He kind of witnessed what happened here.
And the
then
ball kind of rolls over to him?
oh no, I just kind of, I guess this is a random scene.
Yeah, you
Not
might
really
not need
there
that.
to-
You might not need panel 42.
Okay.
Unless, is the bum right here in panel 49?
No, he's not in the story. He's kind of like a side theater.
Well, I know, but in panel 49, you have two characters talking and a guy sitting down. And so all of a sudden between panel 42 and 42 and 44, you've introduced 4 new characters. So I would cut out panel
Yeah.
42. All right, so then the boy walks up and to get his ball, and one of the, okay, now go to the next panel. And you could just hit Command W to put that away, okay. Yeah, you don't have to do it that way, but that's okay. All right, so then, okay. So they throw it back to him. So this is, so the boy that was, or the character that had the ball and now has the ball in 51 is gonna throw it at one of his own buddies that was on the skateboard instead of back to the
Yeah.
boy who lost it. And so it hits his friend, knocks him off.
No, so he's throwing it at a girl who's skating at the park, and then she falls. It's just like he's kind of being a bully. He just like saw a girl, and he's like, I'm gonna throw it at her. It's kind of the
Okay.
story. I know.
So why are they pointing at the character in the middle on panel 64? You know, he did it. They're saying that's the person who did it.
Yeah, they're kind of blaming him.
But the thing is that there's 3 people on skateboards against one smaller boy. So why would they need to blame it? They would just say, you know, the hell with you. So now, but panel 66, we introduce a taller character. Now, who is this?
So this is the little girl's brother. And then he only sees her getting knocked by the ball, so he kind of comes running, and that's why they're pointing at the main character.
Oh, I see. So you just got to be careful that, because you know that there's a relationship between the tall character here and the character who got hit with the ball, but they're all friends with each other. You know what I mean? And so they're blaming it on him. You just got to make that really clear. Maybe panel 65 needs like another couple of panels to explain, wait, what, you know, him looking around. No, go at change of expression from neutral to worry to anger. No, wait, I didn't do it. And okay, so then he takes the ball. What happens in panel 70?
So like the ball, it's kind of floating. It's a robot ball, so it's kind of blocking the tall guy from attacking the main character.
Oh, okay, so you need to show that really clearly, because that's magic. You might even want to put some special effects in there. That, and then what happens? Okay, so go to your next board. All right, so then it looks like they steal the skate. Are they hoverboards?
No, they're drawing little wheels.
They're just regular skateboards?
Yeah.
All right, so they steal one and they're keeping it away,
Yeah.
and then the ball is still floating. And then does he throw the ball in panel 90?
Yeah. So he kind of throws it.
And he
in
throws
there
it
to-
at the Is the older guy now the bully?
Well, the tall one is kind of now just like trying to get the skateboard back. So he's not bullying the main character anymore.
Okay, I want to do something just really quickly here. Go to the next panel. I don't know what happened to my Zoom. Go to the next panel. And all of a sudden, I can't see anything anymore. I don't know what I did. Are you on the next one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't, let me, there we go, okay. And this is the final one, okay. So the, all right, I just want to be careful of one thing. It looks like you've got it pretty well in order. Go ahead and stop sharing your screen. All right, so what I have done is, you said it looked like you had about 109 or 110 panels. And at 3.5 seconds a piece, because that's the average shot length, that's 353 seconds divided by 60 equals a 6-minute film. So remember that I was asking for somewhere around a minute to a minute and a half. So you've done 6 times more work. All right. So just keep in mind, you've given yourself a lot of work. If at any time you realize that you're not going to be able to get this thing into full boards in 2 weeks, then for this project, just do part of it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you.
What is that story called?
Oh, friendship bound. Friendship bound. Need to be louder. Friendship bound.
Okay. I'm just going to write floating soccer ball. Okay. Christo?
Yeah. Hi.
How's it going?
What's up?
Your thumbnails for us today, please.
Yeah. I turned it in.
Could you share your screen with us, please?
All right. Let me get this open because it's been acting up lately. No, not that. Okay. Hold on, my computer's not being nice. Hold on a second.
Let me see, maybe I can pull it. All right, so it might be faster if I just do it this way. You said you did it that way. We're just going to go from the bottom up.
Okay.
All right, you can stop pounding your microphone. All right, so like this looks like a character design. I think it needs proportional work. I'm not quite sure if I like the idea that one arm is skinny and the other's rounded, more rounded or something. It could be more sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with this one. I think that these are just.
I can't see them.
Oh.
It's not showing up. There we go.
Yeah, I just think that you need a relative work in proportion and design. You should never cut the legs off your character when you're designing them.
Uh-huh.
And you should keep things symmetrical if you need them to be, but it's very weird to have one arm that's just like this long and then another arm that is technically twice as long. All right, so remember that there's a difference between rough and sloppy. So figure out what the hair looks like. Figure out what the body shape looks like. It doesn't look like it's designed well enough yet. All right, there's your little map. Thumbnails. You should really open with a title card.
Yeah, I really should. I just realized that.
So they're discussing something or they're exchanging words.
The script has what they were saying.
And then the character that's floating, the character that doesn't have any legs, actually attacks your other character. So I would be careful of this shot right here, mostly because you've pushed the character up against a wall or a vertical surface.
Yeah.
And now you're cutting to like a wall's eye view. This is not the best camera for this shot. You would just stay in the side view or something, and you're already in the side view anyway. So they're fighting. And that's your script. So is this her getting mad with this giant M on her face?
Yeah, it's her getting upset.
And then, so you're still working on it. You need some sort of resolve. So just a couple of things for you. A title card.
Okay.
Don't take your storyboard panels and just draw inside the box. Do not color inside the box. Thumbnails are meant to explore the environment. So draw your perspective, draw your vanishing points, draw your background, midground, foreground elements. Don't go for final line quality when you're just doing roughs and thumbs. And you should be able to thumb out the whole story from your script and just very quickly. So this needs some work. Is this your final? The main character just cries because he got pushed against the wall?
No, I just didn't had enough squares in that page, so I opened another page, just put that single.
I think
square.
you're working a little too slowly. Thumbnails are drawn very quickly.
That was as fast as I drew them, without looking like total garbage.
How are you drawing? How are you getting these lines?
On the drawing tab.
Try to work like with a couple of different layers, like a light blue, and then do the light blue for every single panel first. Then you can do a tie down layer and a cleanup layer if you want later.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Christo.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Anna. All right.
By the way, Professor, just to say, I also submitted it. Yeah.
That you were what?
I just submitted it.
Oh, you
Like,
just.
yeah. Yeah. I know that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I? What did I do? That was Yalin talking.
Yes. So
Okay, hold
yeah.
on.
I mean,
Let me
yeah.
let
Just
me
after.
refresh this.
Mhm.
All right, there you go.
Oh.
All right. What did I see? Oh, we have thumbnails. Okay. Title card. You're missing a title card. You've got your panels numbered. All okay. Is that like a cicada?
Yeah.
Are these more cicadas?
No, those are a type of flowers.
Flowers, okay.
Yeah.
So you introduce this character, and then he just turned. So now you're on scene 3 already. And what is panel 19? Are these two characters fighting?
Yes, they are fighting.
I think you need to establish that a little better. You've got two characters that are being nice to each other. They're talking, they're being nice. And then the whole world collapse. And then you cut on automatic. I think you need to develop your actions in your story panels just a little bit more. And then you introduce scene 2, a new character.
This guy is the one from before. That's the person. Like this was his scream. I kind of want to express that. Yeah, the scheme 1 was this guy's scream.
Well, I'm not quite sure what that means. Is he causing the world to collapse?
No, like the scheme 1 was the cream that made by this guy, and like it's kind of like his past or something, and then the world collapsed, and the guy woke up from his scream. And
Okay, so I think you need to use more panels to show that, because right now, as it is, it's like these two people are talking, and then all of a sudden, the person who's laying down gets a shadow on their face, and the whole world collapses. And then in panel 11, you cut to flowers. And it's like something's not flowing properly yet. So then this guy looks like he might be in bed or something.
Yes, he was in bed.
All right, and so then so these are reading more like little snippets, like little vignettes. And I think you need to tie them together, because now this guy cuts away to a castle, and then you actually cut again to scene 4, where two characters are looking at the screen, the camera.
This was they falling down at the door of the castle.
Oh, yeah. You should draw them down here, but still, I think that you've got a lot of disjointed things that are happening, and you cut to them fighting, which is fine. They can do that. I think you should tie them together a little more cleanly.
Okay.
Make it a unified story and not just a bunch of little vignettes or a bunch of snippets. And you're right. I wanted to say the word snippet.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right. This is Anna.
My thumbnails aren't ready yet, so that's what I have so far.
All right. All right. Thumbnails were due today. All right, so it looks okay, but I wanted to see thumbnails. So get your thumbnails up.
Okay.
Thanks, Anna. You've posted a script sideways. How am I supposed to read it?
I know.
God, you're so
in InDesign,
evil.
it's the right
So
direction. but
evil.
Bro, that's
yeah, it's
legendary.
wrong. Yeah.
All right, we saw this last week. Did you change anything about that last week?
No, not about that part.
Okay.
I started on storyboards. I didn't end up finishing them. I'm still feeling a little burnt out from 24
Sure.
hours.
Yeah, 24 hours will kill you.
Yeah.
Did you take a nap at all?
During 24 hours?
Uh-huh.
Not really.
No. I wouldn't make it. I'm too old.
The perks of being young.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on that, though,
Oh
by
yeah,
the way.
I got yelled at by Stanley, and then I
Stanley was
screamed.
the one yelling at you? I was
Well, yeah,
assuming
he's
it
like,
was
where
Heather.
were you? Where have you been? And I'm like, you all switched over to Discord and you didn't tell me, and Paul didn't tell me. So I didn't know when I logged in the day before, and then the day of, it's like I couldn't get in at all. Like you guys weren't even on Zoom, you were on Discord. How am I supposed to join you? All right,
Oh, yeah.
Sierra, just keep going. It looks like you are on the right track. Just keep going.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Eric, the alphabet. All right, Damien, character designs. Don't draw everything you draw with a left slant. Are you there?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Just get them so that they're straight up and down.
They
Because even
were
these
when I was
characters are
working on them.
slanted to the left. You know, and be careful of your character designs. Do you really want this guy's forearm to be that wide?
No.
So what you're telling me is that you did a rough in blue, and then you're doing a tie down or a cleanup line on top of it, and you were okay with the idea of him having an enormous left arm.
No.
And then the arms on this older sister are like, oh my God. And then her legs are not symmetrical. So be careful of your designs.
Yeah.
All right, this is your map and your script. All right, I think that the script reads okay. I need thumbnails. Thumbnails are due today.
Okay.
Thanks, Damien. Timmy, can you
Hello?
show your screen?
Yeah. Give me a second. Can't screen share while these are participants. Oh, there we go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So there's the character designs again, in case
Yep.
you want a refresher.
Okay.
So I didn't get to finish the thumbnails yet because I was still iffy on the ending, but I think I should be ready for the ending tonight or post it later. But this is all we have so far.
Next page. Okay, keep going. Remember that each shot should have a background, foreground, and midground element in it.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's because these are thumbs and you're doing it quickly. That's good. You could draw them a little faster. It looks like you're trying to go for a little bit too much detail, but that's okay. But at least try to get like a different color in there and show us your background, foreground, and midground elements.
All right.
Yeah, and keep going. I'll reserve my comments for next week.
Okay. Do you need to say anything else, or is that okay?
No, keep going.
Oh, that's it.
No,
That's the end.
no. You can stop sharing your screen.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Aaron? Aaron. Oh, wait, it's not here. Brooke.
Hello.
So.
I did do thumbnails, but I did also nap during 24 hours. So. While Sierra kept coloring.
How long was your nap?
Like 4 hours.
That's not a nap. That's like a full sleep.
To be fair, we finished like 3 hours early and more people
Wow.
could have napped.
Wow. Okay, so title card. It says basic witches. All right, so you've got a pan, close up, pulling down. What's happening in panel 9? 19.
19, she's flopping down on the log. Like,
Why? Why?
Yeah, I struggled with that. Hi.
Why?
Because she doesn't want to be there. And she's really annoyed about it.
How are we supposed to know that? It looks like she just fell and smacked her face.
I know.
So work this out better.
Okay.
And then they're in the pumpkin patch. And then you've got some maybe interaction, some dialogue. Or try to do this all in pantomime.
Yeah, that's all pantomime. Those are mostly reaction shots.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Oh, my pencils just fell over.
Oh.
All right. Okay, it looks like so they're whipping up spells on each other. So one thing that I would recommend here is that remember we did our little cafe, our little cappuccino thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to be really clear here, what you're going to need to do is to find your pencil, and I'm just going to stay red. So like this character here should always be screen left.
Mm-hmm.
So if character A is always screen left, you know, that's character A. Then character B should always be screen right. You know, draw a little line of action in there, even if you're just drawing thumbnails, and give them a little swing. So even if you're doing tiny little drawings, you can still force your cinematic thirds. And that's the whole point, so that you know A and B.
Okay.
And then I think that what you also need is, especially in this area here, you need to do like an intermediate establishing shot so that we know where your character A is. You know, what is she doing? She's standing there, you know, and B doesn't have to be exactly in the same plane. Maybe she can be a little closer or something. But, you know, maybe she's standing just kind of like right there, you know, and then you can widen your shot out so that they're doing, are they both holding books?
No, just one.
You know, so have the one who's holding the book cut into this negative space right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so you can establish this. And then if you want, you can always cut back to this shot so that you see what's happening here, then cut back to this if you need to. But you need to do this at least once, maybe twice.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
So this is kind of non sequitur. I'm done. Well, I'm not. I'll tell mom I'm leaving 43, 44. It looks like mom's here already.
No, that's the same character.
This is mom.
No.
You got the little girl with the blonde hair, the little girl with the curly hair. Who's this character?
The one with the bun. She flopped down on the
So
log
there's
earlier.
3 sisters?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So just be careful, because in that shot that I just drew for you, you need to show where that third character is.
Yeah.
Because it looks like there's just 2 characters arguing. Is that true?
Yeah, Maggie's just kind of The curly-haired one's just kind of standing there watching it go down.
This little one?
Yeah.
So you just be more careful about your composition and your staging.
Okay.
All right, so what happens in panel 48?
It explodes and sends them all flying backwards.
So there's cartoon and comic book shortcuts to show what explosions look like.
Okay.
So you would want everything emanating from the focal point of the explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And you draw these in there.
Mm-hmm.
They become part of your animation. You could draw little stars. You can draw little spirals. You can draw special effects. You can draw circles. You can draw clouds and briffets.
Mm-hmm.
You can draw a blast mark on the ground. What actually exploded?
The magic wand.
I think you need to, is that what this is?
Yeah.
So make sure that that looks like a magic wand exploding and not a leaf.
Okay.
All right, and then you have the characters being blown back by that explosion. Yes?
Yes.
So I think it's inconceivable that they're kind of in the same place by panel 50.
Okay.
They should be all over the yard.
Yep.
And I think that it's also incorrect that they should be happy about this, unless there's something I don't understand about the explosion.
Maggie, the curly-haired one's happy about it because she's now gotten magical powers.
I think you need to get that to read, because right now your whole crisis, your whole conflict is happening in panel 48. There's a huge explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looks like you pan over the pumpkin patch. I'm not sure why, to see one of the characters fall or something. But yeah, but then again in panel 50, they're all kind of in the same arrangement that they started out with. And I think that's incorrect. By panel, but the rest of the panels, you should show like debris on their faces.
Mm-hmm.
And you show what happened to them. So we talk about character arcs and how the best thing with a character development is that the character grows. And so something changed here, and I think that what you need to do is show that really clearly. Now, are you done with your thumbnails?
Yeah.
So this one right here is the one who has magical powers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this interchange right here should be, oh shit, the little one's got powers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who is this in
Still the little
54? So remember your little cafe thing, because she's in the middle now and you're in the middle, but now the camera has gone literally over a 90-degree shift. And then you're back again. So I think that you need a map here to figure out exactly where your characters are, what they're doing, where this pumpkin is, so that maybe the best thing is that you do it like this, where you have sister A, sister B, but remember that, let me zero out of this, that they just got exploded. They just got exploded. So they were here, and then the explosion happened here. So now A is here, B is here, and the little girl is here who now has the powers. And so what I can see the problem here is that this panel should be reversed, because if you have these two girls, this is girl A and this is witch B. And so I'm just gonna do it like this. So you put your line of action like this. This shot right here should be more like this. So what this camera sees should be sister A is going to be here, your perspective, and then sister B should be quite a bit smaller because of the distance. and then the blast happened here. So they tumbled out over here, and then Sister C is here. And when you do this kind of a thumbnail, you might even want to pull back out a little bit more just to reveal or to change a little distance or something. And so that's what this camera sees. And then the pumpkin that she's going to go after here, it would naturally be like close to the two sisters. It would be like here in the middle. And so she just needs to turn just a little bit to get to the action of this on the pumpkin. And so if you needed to, you could cut to this camera here, and what that camera sees, this is strange being able to draw just like wherever on my computer screen, is that she's going to have a series, remember she's on the right? She's going to have a series of expressions. So her inner voice is going to go from surprise, neutral to surprise, or it's going to go from recovery, because she just got blasted, right? It's going to go from recovery to a new reaction, to surprise, to happy, or no, wait, she's surprised because of the powers, and then she's going to try the powers on something close to her, or she's going to look at her hands. And so you could have like this camera just her looking at her hands. And if you look at me, it would be like, whoa, my hands are glowing, right? The kind of the same thing you did with the glowing stick before it. What happened in my thing here? With your glowing stick, just have her in hand. So the sequence would be is that you cut to her with this camera, and she's looking at it, and you go through a series of changes of expressions before she gets mad. So with all of this, so you have it kind of indicated. Is this her? Is this character the same character?
Yeah.
So this is too early. She can't be happy. She needs to be recovering, and then a new expression, and then a surprise, and then a discovery of power, and then trying the power on her hand, and then she's going to look crazy, then she's going to look mad, and then she's going to explode the pumpkin, and then these two are going to freak out and run away off the screen. So for what you have here, you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panels to show the changes of expression going from whatever she's like, her eyes can be all skewed, right? And and she's got little things above her head because she just got blasted. So, and then she's got to recover from that. And then she's got to go through all of this change of expression and growth before she gets mad, and then you can do that thing where we talked about the eyebrows, and then you're like, and then you can get to the point. So you have her happy here. I think she should be like mad. She should be like, how mad can you make her? And then she's happy mad, right? And so play with this whole exchange here before she blasts this pumpkin. All right, you get the idea?
Yeah, thank you.
And then the payoff is that these two are going to do the same thing. And so you put that camera like here or close to it, and then you show these two like, and then so they freak out. They're like, ah.
Mm-hmm.
And their eyebrows are way up off their heads. And their little pupils are like here. It's like, and that's her mouth, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and this is their line of action. So if you draw one line of action like this, complement the other pose by drawing it opposite, And they're like, and again, the eyebrows are like way up here. And then they take it, this one takes an anticipation, they take an anticipation, and then run off the screen. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And it's weird being able to draw anywhere on my screen. It's very strange. All right, thank you, Brooke. Oh, sorry. All right, Nathana.
Yes, that's me. Sorry, it's not. I think when I try to put it together, it's not like how it's supposed to be. It's not. It's, the first one, I think, is on the last. Yes.
All right, a couple of things. Your script looked okay. Careful of your, hey, to pick this every single time. So I think that you want to work on your proportions.
Okay.
Your dad is 3 heads tall. And I think you should work on that. But, you know, character designs can be whatever that you want them to be. You know,
Okay.
Calvin and Hobbes, you know, he's like 2 heads tall, right?
Yeah.
Because that's just what he is. But that's good for a kid. But for a dad, you know, you want to be at least 5. And so
Got it.
head, line of action, draw a nice bean-shaped body, give the dad some legs, and then get his arms in there. This is the mom, you know, so mom could be taller, right?
Okay.
And in the pantomime, we don't know what they're fighting about yet, but maybe they're fighting because she's taller. There's mom, there's her boobies. All right, and then remember, so she's got a stronger stance. All right, you see how we're building? And she's got her arms crossed, right?
Yes.
All right, and so, and work out the silhouette where, you know, do you want mom to have a 50s hairdo? You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
so work
Yeah.
on these character designs here.
Okay.
So so I think that you should have more fighting here.
Okay.
I think that from what we just saw up here, you have the ending at 43 panels, but you can afford to have like, you know, one character just starting in a neutral pose, you know, or maybe they're just, their hands are straight down and their eyes are, their eyebrows, right? They're just really angry. And
Okay.
these, their hands are straight down, their line of action's like this, they're leaning forward, and there's like a coffee table, put some perspective in there, and maybe there's like a vase with some flowers in it or something. And so she's going to reach over and pick up and throw the vase. So,
Okay.
so just thumbing, so she leans forward just a little bit more. I don't know what happens to my drawing here. So she reaches over and picks it, and she puts her hand out here for balance, right? And she picks up the vase, and then she's going to take an anticipation. So she moves backwards this way. And this arm here just kind of falls down, but then this arm goes way up here. You see what I'm thinking? And then she throws it. So then the follow through is that this arm is now up, her head's like this, and this arm comes down and follows through and throws the vase. So you could have like a whole bunch of things in here where she throws the vase and then like the dad throws, I don't know. So you could have a whole bunch of development here.
Okay.
And then because I think that if once you get them throwing, you know, a vase, and then like for instance, if she throws the vase and it crashes off the wall right here, he can turn around and throw the flowers back at her. You know what I mean? Because then it's not quite so dangerous. And then she could throw like a book or the TV remote, and so you can have this. So when you're talking about your stage, you know, you've got dad here and mom here. They might be just a little too close to each other for throwing things. So you might want to just try pulling them back just a little further, and then having your main character like sitting on the couch or something, because then they have more room to throw, and then this character can come forward, because if you got them throwing, then this would make sense. Then they both could grab him, because you know maybe mom is going to throw the kid at the dad and vice versa. And so then they throw him out. So make sure that this looks a little better, because what you probably want is, if we were just going to use the same kind of shot that we just had, is that you get that one key pose where dad is kind of like this. He's got his arm up. You know, maybe there's something in his hand here. He's getting ready to throw, and he's reaching out and he grabs the little boy's hand. And the little boy is just like that. And then you got mom. And she's got something in her hand she's going to throw, and she reaches out, right? And so he's got one leg up in the air. So that's a better pose.
Yeah.
See that? It's a better pose than just like, hey. And so what matters is that there's contact here and here. And then you can prove this whole scenario is that they can take an anticipation and throw him at the camera. So they're gonna they change their pose. Let me just change the color right on top of this. So what I mean by that is that dad's line of action is like this, but dad's line of action is gonna change. His feet are still gonna be in the same place, but they're gonna launch the little boy right at the camera. Right, and he's like, ah, his eyebrows are up here too. And mom's gonna do the same thing. Her line of action changes, and they throw him at the camera. And then the next panel is like his face really big, right? See what I'm doing? And then you can cut to an exterior view of the house, right? When the door is already open, and then he can come flying out. So instead of showing this is a much better way to show this. And he can either fly straight out or he can tumble.
Okay.
And then you can have him upside down. So even though he's upside down, throw his head.
Oh, I like that, upside down.
So, you know, draw him like that. And you can have him land, you could have him just go completely off screen.
Okay.
And then he goes to the library. So I think you should add that kind of vitality, that kind of gestural drawings to everything that you're doing. So keeping in mind that, you know, and we don't need to go through the rest of these even, but, you know, why this? Why is he sitting like a little Buddha? This is strange. He's just got thrown out of the house. He should be moping. And if you want to know what moping is, just get out of your chair and throw the line of action, throw his body, get his feet underneath his pose. This foot is dragging. You know, he's got his little backpack on or whatever. This is a much better moping pose than this.
Okay.
Right? Can you feel this? This is a leg.
Yeah.
This describes moping a lot better.
Okay. the size of the thumbnail okay, or is it too small?
Yeah, no, that's okay. But I
Okay.
think you just need to work on your poses and be more expressive with the poses. You know, and never have a character walking on the very edge of the screen.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Very, very, very poor cinema.
that. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Nathana.
Thank you.
Did we talk about Jasmine yet?
We saw my my thumbnails roughly last week, but not yet. We haven't talked about me this week. You told me to change the character design and make the Manticore a little bigger.
Right. All right, these are looking okay. All right, yeah, this is looking okay. Perhaps just a little too clean, but that's okay. See if anything's catching my eye.
I used my my previous ones as a underlay
Right.
to sketch over some of it.
And then you turned them off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just let me see what's happening here. So is he shaking the ball here? The crystal ball?
No, he's just swinging it about just to see if he could see his uncle better, hear him better.
Oh, okay. So you might want to do like 20A, 20B, 20C, so that we know that he's not just shaking it, like trying to ruin it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he leaves, and so when he leaves, what is this? Is this his magic wand in his hand?
Yes.
So why are there magic wands flying into the door now?
He just left it outside, and it magically levitates and does its own thing.
Yeah, I think you need to explain that, because the way this reads right now, he's shaking the crystal ball, and then it looks like he goes to leave, and he leaves, but then he comes back in, and then just as then this arrow indicates that he slams the door, but it looks like things are flying at the closed door, like someone threw something at him.
Sorry, that's more to indicate that the wand changed, like swung and changed positions, that it's swinging about.
So I think that you can be that close to the door, but I don't think you need to be straight on. No, I think that you can just have the corner of the room, have the door be center screen, so we can see most of it. And then, so you still got right and upper right and lower right focal points where you can see that the magic wand is floating. You see what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so if it is floating, you could just put little briffets around it. And if you wanted to move from position A to position B, you can draw a little arrow and say, no, it's going to float. But why do you want it to change positions? Does it need to change positions?
Yes, because it's gonna be projecting a red dot on whatever surface it lands on, and it just lands on a lot of surfaces that the Manticore ends up destroying.
Okay, so it's going to go from A to B, and then we see it here.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's going to go from there to here. So then you put position C. You can put a little arrow going down, and you can even have the little red dot start coming out right here, right? And you can even show an arrow for the light.
Okay.
All right. So does that make sense?
I was trying to copy what you were doing on my notepad.
Right.
Um,
All right. And so when he's following the dot like this, the manticore destroys the house, right? So yeah, I think you need to show more of that. At panel 23, it's like show the before and after of every single thing he destroys, or 3 things at least. You know, like the sofa, all the plants in the living room, or you know, something like that.
Okay.
All right, and then the dad walks back in and takes back control of his wand. So does dad then repair all the stuff in the living room?
No.
Did you intend for the manticore to destroy the house or just chase it around?
I wanted him to destroy everything.
So this drawing of the sofa is way too clean. You know, I think if dad's going to go, okay, you're a good boy, you know, and if dad is okay with the house being destroyed, then he should be sleeping on a bunch of trash. You know, he should be sleeping on a sofa that's just destroyed. And this shot right here, if the manticore here, it's already destroyed the house before your dad comes back in with the ball. I think that you need to have a re-establishing shot, something similar to this, with the house just completely torn apart.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so like the magician's reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, I mean, like to see and then what he sees.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And then it's kind of a strange thing that the dad would just go, oh, it's okay, I'm gonna just put you to bed anyway because you're such a good boy. Or that he loves him so much. But then you're not gonna have the dad like repair the house. You know, just even in one shot where he just takes an anticipation with his wand and goes zing, and then everything's back to normal.
Okay, I can.
That might tie it together kind of nicely. Okay, let's keep going here. We're kind of running out of time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I had to fix the characters' proportions from last week, and I just included all the trial sketches.
Okay. Excellent. Yes. Yes. Good. Yes. Yes. Nice. Expressive, loose, gestural drawings. Yes. It's exactly what we need to do. Yes. Look, I did that. Time passes. Now you know how to do it. Okay, good. Yes. Good. Close up on the feet. Okay. All right, it looks like you're completely in control here. Let me check on one thing.
I think I just have to kind of go back and work out where my shots are.
Right. In panel 46 here, or you have, it looks like you went 43, 44. Is it raining?
Yeah.
Okay. And now she's sliding. Okay. So they get separated, right?
Yeah, after she kind of has a hissy fit, she walks off.
Oh, this stupid thing. Okay. Sorry about that. Yalin, I hope you didn't have to wait too long before getting back in. All right, so these are great. They get separated, and then she's upset. Time passes, and then they are reunited. Okay, yeah, it's great. Keep going. So it looks like you don't need to do too many other panels. 70 is a lot, but that's okay. So now just take these up to full board size, and I'll explain that here in just a minute. All right, thanks, Hannah Joy. All right, Marquise. You're here, but you're being quiet. You're here, but you can't
Yes.
talk. All right, this is what you have.
Yeah, I still need to finish.
So it says do not enter, but he enters anyway. Camera spin. All right, what I would recommend for you is to get all of your thumbnails done so that I can look at it next week and make specific comments for you for next week. All right, it looks like you're on the right track. There's a couple of better ways to do a camera spin, but I don't think you need it here.
No,
You know, you're
because
still
I didn't
establishing.
understand how to. Yeah. Because I was gonna make it like key points to the poster, kind of like.
So it's like a zip pan.
Yeah, I didn't know how to like interpret it that well.
So that is set up. You almost had it right. So that just looks like this. So that you have you have a long drawing. You have your character here. You have this character. You know, and use a line of action better. You know, it's going to give you a better pose. This character is too close to the edge of the screen, and this head is too close to the top. And so you've got the character, and they're going to, so you have them in a neutral pose, and this is position A, and then they point. So then the hand comes up and they point like this, right? And then you so this is camera position A, and then this, the zip pan, is camera position B, and then you just write zip pan like that. And then what is this? Just a poster on the wall or something?
Yeah, like a poster on a pillar, and then it does like a close-up shot.
Right. So then you could do that here. So then you zip right through there. So if you would have taken these lines out, you would have got most of it. And then you end on this for position C, and then you can zoom in for position D. Got it? So
yes,
I'll need to see all of your thumbs in order to give you a more complete review of it.
Yeah.
All right, now where was I? Fernando.
Hey.
Okay. Okay. They're in panel 21. They're happy because they've just found a safe place to stay for the night.
No, is they're happy because in the top, the first page, as they're outside, it's kind of hot outside, and then they found a cave so they can like wait till the outside gets cooler, and they realize that inside the cave is cooler.
So this is a strange thing. This is like celebrating because the guy just made a touchdown. So I think this is the wrong gesture. I think that what you should be doing is like, You know, if you can look at me in the just have it like, or cut to a
都
close
行
up.
啊，都行，那你就回一个。好的，好的。
Okay.
啊，好的，好的。
Yalen?
Oh, sorry.
God,
I'm so
rude.
sorry.
Yeah, I think this is the wrong reaction here. So then
Okay.
so just make it more subtle. It's like, you know, more ephemeral, more subtle, more recalcitrant, more subtle, because it's inside their heads that you're trying to explain the story. Is that, boy, it's really hot. You know, here they're just looking. They're looking, they're drinking water, sure. And this is the sun, and you could have all indications of it being really hot. And that's fine, but here I think you could even cut to just a close-up shot of them like being relieved that now it's nice and cool in there. And it's hard to draw cool, you know. Okay, so
Okay.
now they're sitting. The horse freaks out because there's a gremlin in the cave, and the gremlin looks like a giant frog. And they shoot at the giant frog, and the donkey's mad at the giant frog because he's squishing the guy's head. And the donkey kicks the giant frog. Does that kill the frog?
Mm-hmm.
So why do you have the word burp? Oh, is that bump?
Bump.
Fist bump. Okay, just a couple of things here. You know what might help is that, and it's very strange. I have a pencil in my left hand and my Wacom pen in the right. It feels very strange. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a suggestion for you. In panel 5A, or no, wait. In panel 4A, I think what you need is an ECU of this guy's face. And so it's hot, so have him slumped over. So draw like a really big head, okay? And you got his ear, he's got his little hair, you got his eye, his nose, his chin, his little neck. He's got a hat on? No, he doesn't have a hat. He's got his little hair up there. So this is an ECU of your guys, and he's really hot. So get his eyes to be droopy, right? Get his face to be droopy. And the reason why you want an ECU, even an extreme close-up, is that you can have these little beads of sweat coming down from his forehead like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even like rolling over his eyes and then downwards. And while you're at it, you can even do this kind of close-up where you cut from panel 4 to panel 4A right here, where you just see sweat going through the picture plane. And then you pull out to reveal that it's his full head.
Okay.
And so that's 4A. And then that sets up this much better. And then you can revisit that when you get to him being relieved in the cave. You know, they're walking and they're going, so they're in the cave, you know, right here. So at 20, come on, Zoom. What happened to my Zoom? There we go. So what I was talking about this position here is that if you wanted to have some sort of excitement, but you need to lead up to it, So in 20A, or this would be 20A, this would be 20B, you know, you could have a series of mid shots or near mid shots where he's looking down, right? And then he looks to his left. So you do a little, so this is the back of his head. So he looks to his left, and then another one where he looks this way. And this is the time when we get to see his face. And now he's like, now he's happy, right? And then and then in a final one, he could be like, he just wipes his forehead. And so this sets it up pretty well. You just take his arm and drag it across his face that way. And then the little sweat can come off, but he's happy here. So get that little smile in there. And so I think that this is 20A, 20B, 20C, 20D, 20E. So there's a change of expression from what we saw up here about him being just torturously hot to then being happy here. Everything else is working pretty well. I'm not sure what's happening here though. What is this action in panel 28?
So all the way from 25, it's supposed to be like a donkey, not a horse.
Right,
So he sees like a piece of corn on the basket, and he's mostly trying to get that piece of corn.
Oh, I see.
And yeah, in 28 he got it.
So in panel 29, is this like the tongue of the toad?
No, it's mostly like the
bridle for his bridle. Okay, but this is the tongue from this. Okay, I get that. So he steals the corn. All right, I think you got everything else under control. Just see if you can make those little adjustments that I suggested.
Okay.
It looks pretty good. Thanks, Fernando.
Thank you.
Ah, stop it. All right, Andrew. Did you check out that Michael Greyer guy I recommended last week?
The clown guy?
Yeah, remember I recommended
Yeah, I did.
Puddle's Pity Party?
Yeah.
Did you like his singing?
It was fine.
It's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so when you're designing a character, you can put him in context, you can put him in motion, but he looks like he's just falling over.
Oh, all right.
So I think a better way to do this would just be do that underdrawing first. Get the line of action set so that you've got like this little chubby body. Right, he's in motion, so get the hips in there, get this leg down on the floor, get this one out stronger. So even with that adjustment, this is a better pose.
All right.
Now, this is a foot that's bending. This is a foot that's on the ground. Get this arm up over here. So it's a better silhouette. This is not a good silhouette. And then you can leave the arm up here, with his knife and exaggerate the knife. So this is the thing that's on his collar, right? So get the collar to read so that it's got a good silhouette, like this, rather than just more circular. And then you can make him as chubby and as fat as you want him to be. So this is the way to study the gesture better than just getting him looking like he's crooked on the page.
All right.
All right. We talked about these designs last week. I think they still need work.
I tried changing them a little bit. I felt like if I changed how they looked, the differences that I wanted them to have were less pronounced.
Yeah.
You think I should change them more?
Well, I think that they're not different enough.
There's a file on one of the files that I submitted has a picture of them being a little different, or at least one of the characters.
Oh, is that a new one?
It's a new one. I think it's like character designs or something like that, or design ideas.
Your file names are way too long.
So it's fairly
So you
similar.
changed them a little bit.
Yeah.
What I would recommend maybe is something like, if you're going to keep this guy,
Yeah.
then, give this guy's curl something more pronounced. And because of that, you might give him a bigger ear.
All right.
And then just look at it. If he's got this pose, that pose is going to be a little bit more hunched over. So get him to be kind of like that. And let the curl go forward. And then, butt head, I think that you could certainly play with the backwards line of action. Certainly get maybe the feet are always apart on this guy. Maybe he's got like bow legs or something. Go in and out, and then make his head bigger than all the other ones, and then put a crease right down the middle so he looks like a peach, right?
Yeah.
A little ear could break the silhouette. This guy's fine, but I think that you could definitely pronounce the knock knees.
Okay.
See how far you can push that pose. So those ideas right there just help. Especially with this guy, arms out. This guy's arms are always out. This guy's guys are always like at his chest, and this guy's arms are always like just kind of straight down. So even their posture.
All right.
And then you have, where are your thumbnails? Storyboards arranged?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this becomes important. Like this shot, scene 1, panel 16. So in order to study that, then you have to like make sure that this reads. So get what you just did with all your characters, line of action, just standing. The guy in the middle is butt head, so he's just like a little taller. His head's a little bigger. There's a peach, right? The ears stick out. Line of action. So if one line of action is going this way, and have the other one go this way, right? And so build it, even though they're in silhouette, build it so you can still see who they are. This is a guy with always got his hands at his chest, right? So that becomes important. You want to study those silhouettes so that it'll help you with all of your other poses, because then you know what their relative silhouette looks like.
All right.
Yeah, I think your line of action needs work. And this is good to have this is a good study right here. And so work on this one backwards to what I suggested, because it'll definitely help. Maybe just a little too much dialogue,
Yeah.
Andrew. And if you're going to have that, you're going to need what they call interstitial title cards, like old black and white movies. You know, so you might want to just panel scene 9 or shot 9, 28, but 28B is the dialogue. You do it like a black and white movie. They're just interstitial title cards. And you just put the dialogue so everyone can read it. I was adamantly against that idea for years until I saw how they were doing the thought balloons in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You know, everything that Miles was thinking was like the comic book, and you could do it that way too. But you could try black and white interstitial title cards. All right, so what are they doing? They're eating, right? They were eating. They were chewing, chewing, chewing.
Yeah.
And what is the result of the chewing? What happens to them?
Oh, then they're sitting at a table and Mr. Clown asks who wants more cookies.
Okay, so just one more little suggestion here. And that is, for this kind of shot, you know, this is your ending shot. So put your horizon in there, think about your focal points, and then with the horizon here, give yourself your perspective. And then do you want to see the top of the table? So it might make sense for us to see the top of the table. That puts the vanishing point above the seam in the wall a little bit, which is fine. So this is your table. And then you can see the legs of the table. And then we'll be able to see your clown character on the upper left focal point in more of a 3/4 pose. And he'll be taller, so, you know, and he's fat too. So, you know, so then you can have him sitting there and there's his chair, draw the chair in perspective. And then the table's long enough that you'll be able to see character 1, line of action, character 2, line of action, character 3, line of action. So we'll be able to see where all of your characters are rather than lining them up.
Yeah.
Right? So this is a much better practical way to put this kind of shot together. Once you've got this thumbnail kind of going here, you know, you have to decide whether you want to see his feet, whether you want to see their feet, or whether this original staging here is actually working or not. But this, translating into that, can be applied to a lot of these little shots in there.
All right.
So, and remember, we worked this out just in like 20 seconds or so. So, you know, you were thinking about eyes and like his little, what is on his head?
No, it's a hat.
It looks like a chicken. You know, worry more about the gesture and the composition and the pose and the perspective rather than trying to get his tiny little arm here. You know, draw more gesturally.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. Hi, Christine, are you there?
Yes.
All right, we talked about this last week.
Mhm.
All right, I think you're on the right track. Everyone for next week, the directions for your homework are to start doing your board panels. And so an example would be is to just start at the beginning. I always like to try to work linearly once I've got the story established. But sometimes I like to start at a pose that's important, an establishing shot, you know, maybe like this one right here, because then you could drive it backwards. So so right here, I think you start out okay with the horizon being about the third, about a quarter to a third way up the screen. Remember to always just think about your focal points, close enough. And then when you're getting this, remember that this 4 by 7 inches is way too big. And so I think the measurements that I were using was like 3, I forget. I'll give you the measurements in just a minute.
Okay.
But anyway, what happens is that, let's see where the train station, you know, where's
Oh
the
yeah, I
train?
forgot to put the scene numbers.
Right, I'm gonna go over slugging again in just a minute, but so this guy's sitting on a chair out,
Mhm.
what is this structure here?
Oh, that's the main character's house.
All right, so I mean, you can drawing a straight-on view of the house is fine, but it might make more sense to think about just your general composition. And you got this little guy here, and so he's standing, head, line of action, and whatever he's doing, and get his feet to break down from the horizon. And this guy is looking away from us, so his chair is like over here, and he's sitting, so his line of action is like this. And once you've got those two characters established, then go, hey, look, where's a good place for the house? You know, you could put the house in the middle. You could put the house over here like this, and then show some perspective through that character. And then you've got room for a tree. Then you've got, you know, you've got your perspective. Whenever there's a house, there's always some other structure. There might be a smaller tree back there. There might be a really big tree over here. And I think that just dressing up your shot like that, even in thumbnail form, helps. What's this guy doing sitting in a lounge chair out in the yard?
Oh, I haven't really finished the background yet, so I'm not entirely sure yet.
But I think that this is what happens when you start going from a thumbnail into a board. You kind of have to recompose it a little bit so that you are thinking about focal points, you are thinking about perspective, and in the sky too. So an example would be is that, you know, you might have thought that these were clouds, but watch this. There's like a little cloud up here in the sky, right? And that looks, but there's a vanishing point about right here. So anytime you want to draw a cloud, then if you draw a cloud, it should be about this length right there. So if you draw a cloud in here, it should be really small. So that anywhere you draw a cloud, you follow the same kind of rule, and you can get a sense of perspective just with the clouds you're drawing. So this is an example of going from a series of thumbnails up and starting to think about planning out your full boards. Again, the idea is 16 by 9 or whatever, because then the derivative is 8 by 4.5. And then the next one is 4 by 2.25. That's the one I use. So when I'm doing full boards, I do 4 by 2.25. And that is the 16 by 9 ratio. Right? And that's for everyone. It's not just for you. So this is a really, really good size boards for final board size. And then when I do that, I always pay attention to my action safe, my title safe, where my focal points are, where my horizon is, when the vanishing point is, when I'm using 1 point, 2 point, or 3 point perspective. Right, and then coming from your map, you know exactly where your cameras are and your shot sequencing. And then for everyone, remember that industry standard is that on the upper left is where I usually put the panel number. So this is panel number. And then in the upper middle is where I put sequence. And no one's gonna need more of a sequence. You don't need to do this one. But over here I put shot SH01. So this is panel number, and then this is shot number. And then on the lower right is the slug for timing. So if this was your title card, you could just write title. And then you know whatever your guys got the new kid, and then you could write 3 seconds. And so I would like to see this idea of slugging from everyone, because it's what you need to think about when you're doing storyboards, especially going from thumbnails, which could be arranged. So you get an 8A, an 8B, an 8C, and then all of a sudden you realize that this is not panel 9 anymore, that this is 8, 9, 10, this becomes panel 11. So when you're going from thumbnails to new boards, this, which used to be panel 10, is now panel 12. And so draw loosely and roughly, do like a little rough first on your full board size, 4 by 2.25, and then tie it down with a stronger line. So the rough is in blue, and then you can do your tie down in a dark blue or a black. All right, so I'm just looking at the story here. Sir, the guy is arrested. So why is this character saying that was close?
Oh, because the door closed and he was like worried of being caught by him.
That guy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. For all of you, I think that just make that note for yourselves. You have your panels numbered, but you're probably going to need to renumber them as you expand on saying, I think I might need another panel here between 25A, 25B. Then this becomes a new number. Anything after that becomes a new number. All right, thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you, and Jesse B.
So just page 4 and 5 are my thumbs.
Okay.
Map, yeah. And I didn't tie these down yet and
That's
put
fine.
Numbers.
All right, so what's going on? They're pantomiming.
So there's a card game going on the floor in the kitchen.
Okay.
So there's 4 characters there, and then that's those 5
So-
panels.
So be more clear with this shot here. You said there's 4 characters,
Yeah,
and they're like at a card table or something?
yeah, they're around it on the floor.
Oh, they're on the floor.
Yeah.
But in a square,
Yes,
so
facing each other. I think I might even have it mapped up above.
yeah, I think you do. But once you get to like this shot here, I
Yeah,
think the best way to do this is to just kind of draw a square and draw your vanishing points.
Yeah.
And they're all sitting like cross-legged on the floor, right?
yeah,
So get that working. Head, line of action. Get their feet crossed. That's one. Get
Yeah.
this one, head, line of action, feet crossed. This one, head, line of action, feet crossed. This one, it's going to be a little harder. Just look at your negative
Yeah.
space, right?
yeah,
And so when you're looking at your perspective, just force this one a little bit. Leave this guy's head right here. And then he's sitting cross-legged on the floor. So this might be a little farther away, but you don't want to
Yeah.
draw this head. So what you do is just get the playing field down a little bit more. Then you can put your cards, right? And
Yeah.
then you can start establishing the space. There's your horizon. They're in a room. I see that there's a corner right here. There's a
Yeah.
perfect place for the corner.
That's what I was thinking.
And then, you can start building your room. But that's how you start building just with the gestures. If they're playing on the ground, so then you can put the cards in here clearly. You've got lots of space, and then looking at this shot, going, this is a focal point. This is a focal point. We're doing this one backwards, by the way. We did the drawing first. Now we're finding our focal points, and now we can see where our actual frame is like that. So what you drew here with more of a bird's eye view becomes this, because it's just easier to do it that way. And it's only in shots like this where sometimes you have to do the drawing backwards to find out what the staging is like. And it's okay to have an open space here. You don't have to fill in everything.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I do this twice. So there's a scene in the kitchen with 4 people around center, and same with the guys with the glasses.
So
they're
so just spend like right here, right? No, wait.
no,
you
the,
haven't drawn
the
that
guys.
one yet. So then what becomes important is that these guys should not be so close to each other. From that image that I just drew for you.
Totally.
Come on, Zoom. So for this guy's on the left, this guy's in the back, and so just always go back to that. If the A, B, C, D, E, right? So this guy is sitting here, and they haven't moved. They're still just sitting cross-legged on the floor. The perspective is that other guy, this guy, is here. And if you wanted to get their heads in the same shot, like they were conversing back and forth, then you're going to have to work backwards again. Focal points, and then that shot is going to be more like this than this. And if you're going to do a camera move from one to the other, I'm sorry, let me redo this. There's a better way to do it. He's on the left, right? So you always keep him on the left, and then you cut to him, who's more on the right, and then you can pull out. So you can do camera A, camera B, and then a final camera C if you need to. But this is incorrect to have these two close together. If your camera was pointed like really close to this guy, like in the top view, you've got 4 characters sitting around a carpet. And if you wanted their heads to be that close, then you would be using a camera that was pointed like this. And then that camera would probably see, you would go back to the little coffee table thing where this character's head would be really big, but you wouldn't see his face. If he turned to us, that would be fine. Then you put him a little turning line of action, but then look at your rules of perspective. This guy's face here should be quite a bit smaller.
Yeah.
Quite a bit smaller. So you could try all you want to get him in the same shot like this, but this is funny. Here, I'm erasing it now.
I got it.
Got it? Okay.
Thank you for that. And I was going to ask you something, but no, I'm good.
Okay. I didn't plan this out to be so perfectly timed to 9:30. It just happened that way.
You could just go to like the page 1, 2, and 3.
Wait, say that again?
You can go to the page 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, okay.
Because the other stuff is just like maps and scripts.
Okay.
Can you see it well? I don't know if you can see it well.
I can see it.
Okay, good.
Just abbreviate scene by SC.
Okay.
You don't have to write.
Oh, okay.
It. And shot SH.
Okay.
You just, you got to work fast, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that looks good. Wait, let me go back. So they just dug a hole.
Mm-hmm. Well, both are digging separate holes.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. But one of them is standing in the coffin.
She opened the casket.
And then the person that was in the casket's now coming out.
No. She's coming out. She's getting lifted up by her brother.
That's not what you drew. Look. So what you have is that this character is in the hole, Jake, rest in peace. And this character is here, right? And so you're going to have to be, so then you go to the next panel and you're going to have to be clear about where the character that was in the coffin still is. Okay. In other words, I think this shot needs to be wider. So the person who's alive is coming out of the hole. And then what happens here in shot 9?
He falls back as he picks her up.
So he helps her up, but he falls back in on top of the, all right, and then the skeleton comes to life? Okay. Yeah, so just be clear here. I think you need a wider shot here. Okay. And I don't know if you need this shot. Why do you need this shot with the...
I wanted to mark the hour. It's like the time for like the dead. It's like suspicious.
All right, that's fine. But I think that you could probably do this in one shot. In other words, have the hand is up here with the watch on it, right? And then the hand goes down into this position. So this is your camera for that hand, like that. And then you go to this shot, and what makes it really clear is that if you then widen out even further, just a little bit, to show that the casket is still down here.
Okay.
And then you can show like the edge of the hole that she dug. Kind of like that. So this is camera A, camera B, and then this whole thing is camera C. That makes sense?
Sorry.
All right, so this is looking okay. You introduce a little dog. Is this dog dead?
No, it's an armadillo.
It's an armadillo.
And it was in the other shots before, but you
All right.
couldn't really notice it.
All right, so my main suggestion here would be consider putting extra actions, extra poses for whatever shot 18, panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, because I think you just need to expand on it just a little bit.
Okay.
All right, so this is just for everyone again. "16 by 9 translates into 8 by 4.5, too big. 4 by 2.25 is the perfect size." Okay? I want to see panel numbers over here on the left. You do not need the sequence number in the middle, but this is reserved here for shot number. So you do shot 1. If you are going to use scenes, then you can put the scene in the middle, scene 01, scene 02. If you're using a title card that is animated, then that is scene 1. And your actual animation characters start with scene 2. You can either abbreviate SC_02 or SC2. I like to use a 0 because then it keeps it spaced correctly when I'm going along. This again is your slug, and just estimate your time. And you can do it in a number of different ways. You can do 3 seconds, or you can do 72 frames. And I want to see what your slug is looking like, so that you know that you should not have shots that are all 2 seconds apart or 2 seconds next to each other. You should have a variation. In story, we'll go back to this little graph right here, that the beginning of your story, your shots are longer. And then when you get to the crisis of your story, the shots can be shorter. And then when you get to the act three, or the ending or the denouement, they can be longer again. So an example would be 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds, 2. And then if you have a fight sequence here, then your shots go down to 1, even a half a second, even a quarter of a second, and then back up again from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Some establishing shots can be as long as 10 seconds long. Some ending shots can be as long as 20 seconds long. So with just the boards that you have 10 and 20, you could have like 50 or 60 second film with just 40 panels. So that, remember, that's my target, is about 40 panels, because we're looking about 1.5 minutes of a story. So anyone who's doing it longer, just remember that you got extra work to do there. This whole thing I call the slug. Now, the industry calls just the timing the slug, but I like to consider the order of panel numbers, sequencing, scenes, shots, and the timing all part of the slug. Remember too that there are different styles, and you can work really tight, you can work very loosely. In any class kind of like this, you really should be given about 4 hours of homework every week. So plan backwards, plan it backwards. Don't give yourself 30 hours of work to do in 1 week, because you're looking at really, really, really detailed style of story panels. It's only 1.5 minutes. It's only 40 panels. So, you know, go backwards and make sure you're not giving yourself too much work. If you need to loosen up your style a little bit and not have so much detail, just so that you can get the story told, that's the best. And so next week, it should be a little easier for critique here, because we've already seen this, we've already made suggestions. I don't know if I'm going to plan out a demo or a lecture, but I would like to make sure that I get you all under my board here, so that you can get into your delivery on the 21st cleanly. So project 4 will be due on November 18th, and project 5 will be due on December 18th. So one thing that you can also do is start thinking about what those final 2 projects are. And you can use the same characters for one of them if you'd like, but like I said, the danger would be is that if you start putting board panels together in your portfolio, your showreel, or your website, it's going to look like it's just one long story. So it's almost better to try to come up with new characters each time. All right, everyone got it? Everyone okay? All right, Brooke, Sierra, go get some sleep. I know you still need to get caught up on your sleep. All right, we'll see you next week, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
See you guys.
Bye bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.